What time is it? It's nation time.
Greetings and welcome to the AfterWords program. I'm Baba Kafense, your host. I'm joined today by Reverend M. Abel Brown, this week's preacher of our sermon, We Speak Your Name, Malcolm X. How are you today, Reverend? Welcome
I'm
to
fine, brother. How are you, Baba?
I'm good. Welcome to the AfterWords program. Today's scripture comes from the book of John, the 14th chapter, the 26th verse, and it reads, "But the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you." Uh, I'm curious, as we come to celebrate the 100th, the centennial, the 100th anniversary, the 100th birthday, the Honorable El Haj Malik El Shabazz Malcolm X. What were your thoughts and inspirations as you sat down to prepare a message for this particular occasion?
My thoughts were that Malcolm is such a polarizing, charismatic brother throughout our history. And so it was a challenge, but it was a welcome challenge in that he's just so powerful. And to be able to, it's more of a social commentary about Malcolm's life and what he gave to us by way of his adages, his proverbs, or his quotes. So the sermon is more of a commentary based on what he would reply to in today's world in sight of what's going on. So the inspiration were several of his quotes that are so hard hitting, but so prophetic and so real and so profound today, to bring that back to life throughout this sermon in homage to who he was and who he continues to be for the Black nation.
Okay, and many of us have like personal experiences, say with a particular Malcolm X quote or not sermon, but a lecture. Do you have any more personal experiences to say that maybe how Malcolm X may have influenced you directly personally?
Well, I think after reading the autobiography of Malcolm X was very transformative in itself. But I think what impresses me more about his life is just that he is the life. He is what we called transformation in action, how he grew up as a result of his parents being a part of the struggle, being a part of the Garvey movement, and how later that transforming energy of his parents was available to him as he began his quest in the Nation of Islam. But more importantly, the human aspect of Malcolm, the fact that he was a teenager, the fact that he did experience trauma, he did experience what is that loss of innocence, encountering white people, the loss of innocence, being a part of the street life of Detroit, being Detroit bred, going to prison, having the relationship with the quote unquote forbidden white woman, and to be able to go to prison and to be able to be transformed by encountering Islam from another brother. So it was almost, to me, I kind of thought of it, his road to Emmaus, how he was able to encounter the Nation of Islam and the religion of Islam through his encounter of being in prison. Like all of us at some point in our lives, those most valuable weak moments in our lives, those moments that are as a result of our human foibles, and how we either grow or we don't grow, and how he in that moment chose to grow with embracing the Nation of Islam, and how that just catapulted him into a higher echelon of just not only what it means to be a Muslim, but what it means to be a man of vision, a man of transformation, and ultimately a man of change, when he changed his stance from a more world global aspect of who we are as the African people, until he was unfortunately assassinated.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Later in the sermon, you explain uh, that uh, we're living in a time of great cowardice and a time of low aim, I think is the kind of the way you contextualize it, just kind of saying where we are as a people. And you also assert that this is a pivotal year for us, or this will be a pivotal year for us. Could you elaborate on where we are as a people and why and how we need to pivot as you express in the sermon?
Okay. Well, it's pivotal because everything that we work for, 59 of civil rights legislation is hanging in the balance of being undone because of this current administration. And our national presiding bishop, Jeramogi Kimathi, gave a response to that. What is our response in today's world in sight of, in light of all these things that are happening to Black people? And our response will always be the stance of self-determination as a nation. And so what do we do with that response? And those areas of how do we shore up who we are as Black Christian nationalists? I think that's pivotal, not only for who we are as a church, but who we are in the world, to be able to go back and to grasp those BCN teachings that really were our everyday commandments, so to speak, of how we govern life and life accordingly. From nothing is more sacred than the liberation of Black people, dealing with individualism. You're talking about that constant battling with the beast, and that our politics is very sacred to who we are as a nation.
Okay, and what I heard in your last response is we need to shore up ourselves as Black Christian nationalists and revisit and go back to, these are my words now, kind of the foundations of what we believe. But how do we make that relevant to people that are not Black Christian nationalists?
We make it relevant by being who we say we are. The words of Malcolm X are relevant today as they were when he was 50 or 60 years ago, during his time throughout the civil rights movement, the Black Panther movement, or the liberation movement. And again, it's important for us to realize that there's a Malcolm in all of us born anew in each generation. But with that, we have the antithesis of Malcolm. Like, we're inundated with the Byron Reynolds, the Clarence Thomas, I mentioned the young preacher who preached that Black people should teach their children to obey white authority. So we're inundated with these cowardly images every day. And so we have to show up that for every Clarence Thompson, we have a Thurgood Marshall. For every Byron Reynolds, we have a Raphael Warnock. And so for every anti-Black figure that's shown, we need to be the pro-Black figure. So it has to be a balance.
Okay, and I appreciate that balance. Balance, of course, is very essential, particularly in the work that we do. What is the major takeaway that you have? What would be one thing or things that you want to be the major takeaway for our viewers and listeners as we reflect upon and celebrate our Black shining prince, the Honorable El-Haj Malik Malcolm X?
My big takeaway is that Malcolm would remind us that BCN, or Black Christian nationalists, for him, like the Islam, is not watered down, and we cannot afford to water down who we are as Black Christian nationalists. And one thing that I've reiterated throughout the sermon is we cannot say we serve a God that's known by many names and have a weakening in who we are, a weakening in our position. So that's why in this day and age, our Kuwani Watu becomes increasingly more important. We have to bring Black people to the nation. We have to tie it into the nation, and we have to continuously build a programmatic response to who we are as an African people and a global people, in addition to just it not being local to the United States, but a Pan-African people. So I think shoring up who we are in all areas of that is critically important now, and to continue to model who we say we are to the generations that's coming now, and those generations that are going to continue to come. So who we are, we have to continue to model who we say we are as Black Christian nationalists. And I think that's what Malcolm X would want us to know, more importantly this day, and to believe in the Jesus that we believe in, that our Bible teaches us that Jesus was a revolutionary example, and that he did not bow to Roman authority. He did not bow to the Pharisees or the Sadducees. He did not bow to what the political arena said was right. He did the will of God, and that cost him something, his life.
And if you could just briefly, because we're almost out of time, say a little about the programs of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church and how they can prepare us to be more effective in our struggle for liberation.
Okay. Well, for me, the biggest program will always be that the foundational learning of who Jesus, the Black Messiah, is, and Jesus' role in the Messianic community, our role in the Messianic community. And again, what the brilliance of our founder, the Honorable Reverend Albert B. Clegg, was he was able to take a mustard seed in Black youth and implant in them and impart in them, who they were. And so you had, as we celebrate 50 years in Atlanta, Georgia, you had these strong, fearless college cadre of young adults to come down away from their families and away from what they know, away from comfortability, to come down and to start an institution in Atlanta, Georgia, and to make it great because someone saw something in them and spoke to that inner divinity and allowed them to come here and to make Atlanta the shining jewel that I feel that it is, and I hope everyone feels it is one of the shining jewels in our crown as the shrine of the Black Madonna.
Thank you very much, Reverend Emma Bell Brown, for an insightful sermon, engaging sermon, and a very insightful conversation that follows. Is there any one thing you might like to say before we leave? We're actually out of time. Happy
anniversary, Shrine 9.
All right. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners and urge you to continue to join us in the Bila Kuta space Sunday mornings at 11:30 and for powerful sermons and for the engaging conversation that follows in the AfterWords program. And I'd like to close with the words of our patron saint, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
What time is it? It's nation time.